Hello, Maxwell. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Hi, it's my pleasure.
You're the founder of Apartment Therapy, a network of blogs, and this is your third book.
Right.
I want to hear about the Apartment Therapy's Big Book of Small, Cool Spaces, and you've got such a journey here. You describe yourself as one part designer and one part life coach. Could you describe what you mean by this?
Well, my approach to the home it's not just about the way it looks; it has to be about the way it feels too. And so, when apartment therapy is that it's about the apartment, but it's also therapy. So when you're working on your home, you're working on yourself, and if you've got problems in your home, part of them is we can talk about solving them with decor and technology and stuff like that, but also we're going to be talking about you and what makes you feel good and your path and your mission in the world.
So when someone calls you, the first thing you do, you go out and you talk to them about what? Let's say I'm a client and I just called you.
Well, right, I worked with clients from 2001 to 2008, and I no longer work with clients. Our clients are now really all of the readers of our websites. It's interesting, and it turns out to be very powerful. People are avid readers, and we write for them every day, and we also answer their questions. And whenever possible, we're also going into their homes and photographing them so we can share their good ideas, and often sometimes doing work in their homes to share with the other readers.
So the homeowner takes a much more active part in decorating their home than they used to. They used to call an interior decorator in. And
absolutely. From the beginning, the idea has been to teach people to fish, not give them fish. Anyone can, well, not anyone can hire a designer, right? Not anyone can hire an architect. And what I found was that most people not only didn't feel comfortable or know where to go for that, but they also couldn't or didn't think they could afford it. So apartment therapy is built on the principle that you can do most of it yourself, and that a little bit of knowledge goes a long way, and it's fun.
Now, if you gave advice to me and said, which room would I start with? I've got budgetary constraints, and I don't even know where to begin. Which would be the most maybe important room in the house?
The most important room in the house is, I always say it's your bedroom, because it's where you spend the most time, even if you are asleep. So, and you can do a lot there. It's really about building comfort in your room. But one place people really like to start, if they don't like my first suggestion, is in the front hallway, sort of your main entrance where you come in, because that's where you bring in a lot of stuff, you dump a lot of stuff. It's easily cluttered. It's also makes the biggest impression when you have guests come over.
And it's interesting you mentioned the hall. How do size constraints unlock your creativity? I see you said that, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't understand this. So,
say that again. What are the
size constraints? How does this unlock your creativity?
Oh, I see. It was actually that quote is actually from Charles Eames, and he said, "I've never willingly accepted a compromise, but I have willingly accepted a constraint." And that to me means that compromise is no fun, but a constraint is a challenge. And when you have a challenge, you find creative solutions, and you go beyond yourself, and you come up inevitably with new ideas. And that's what's the chief pleasure of working on your own home. It's doing stuff that you never thought you would be doing before, and discovering things that you never knew before. And then having someone come over and visit your home and go, "Hey, wow, how'd you do that?" And you can proudly say, "Well, I just sort of thought of it, and I tried it, and it worked." But size is a constraint, budget is a constraint too. Both of them are very powerful in terms of unlocking creativity.
So this is really an artistic creation that's ongoing. It doesn't stop with this decorating, does it?
No, it never stops, and that shouldn't sound exhausting. It should sound like a party that never ends, I suppose. Okay. What I find is that the most challenging thing is when you feel like, ugh, my home, it's a mess. Right now we've been really focusing on decorating and all the wires. I have to deal with it. And if you feel that way once a year, and then you go deal with all those cords and wires, and then you don't revisit it for a long time, it sort of stays a chore. What I find is when people get into following our sites and doing what we do, they sort of do a little bit all the time. And when you're doing it that way, it's sort of an ongoing experiment that never grows into being something burdensome or unbearable.
What advice would you have for people who are new roommates or newly married and they have totally different tastes? Because I know that happens a lot.
Ooh, well, that's the therapy part. Really, the best thing you can do is give yourself the freedom in your own space to express yourself and do what you want. And in your shared spaces, you have to, I often say delegate to the person who has a bit of a stronger style. I often think that in couples as well, there's usually someone who's a little bit stronger in the style department, and it can be really good for the relationship to let them go for it, and then learn to love what they do. And then they will let you do what you do best and learn to love that.
That sounds fair. I know that you have Eames chairs and interesting pieces on your website. I've seen that are for sale in the different cities that you talk about. What pieces, if I could buy one piece as an important investment, what kind of piece would be important for me?
What you mean? What kind of piece would be
like furniture or something?
That would be the most useful, or that you'd spend the most on and keep the longest? That type
Yeah,
of...
I would guess. What would if I had $500? And what would be an important piece that I could maybe keep forever? Where would I begin?
Where would you begin? That's a good question. Well, $500 isn't going to get you a sofa, or at least not one that you're going to keep forever. I would say an armchair, or dining chairs. Actually, dining chairs more so, because they're something that you're going to you can take with you. They're generally in one size, so they'll fit in any space you've got.
And do you find people using recycled materials and going out to resale and secondhand shops a lot?
I do. We absolutely. It's become a huge part of what we've seen happening over the last 10 years. Places like Craigslist are just as important as the Crate and Barrel.
And if you have a really expensive taste but you don't have the money, any advice? Because that's me.
That's the constraint, right? The budget constraint.
Right.
That's where you want to be a smart shopper, and that's what we do every day long. We're constantly trolling the market and reviewing new things, and also buy less. Buy less, but buy good stuff. So instead of buying 3 things that are sort of affordable and maybe not exciting you, buy one thing. And that's when we get into decorating and when we talk about technology, particularly this time of year, when people are looking for gifts and trying to add something that's exciting to their home. The one place where your money goes really far these days is in technology. The price of things, because of the fierce technology market, really is in your favor. And there's a lot of super useful things that you could start with right there.
And I know your focus also is how to design around technology, because I know in the past people used to hide their television behind these big
Right.
wardrobes and armoires, and now it seems like they integrate the technology into the actual design of the apartment.
Yeah, no, I remember when I started, I used to make cozies for people's televisions, and sew them just to put over the television so they wouldn't see them. And now it's really changed. People, 2 things have happened. One is that there's much more technology in the home. I mean, it's sort of inevitable. We're just dealing with it from the peripheral devices and cell phones and the television and all the devices that come with that now. But it's also gotten a lot more attractive, and it's gotten smaller. It's gotten easier to work with it. So you've got, particularly in the cord department, the stuff that I've been looking at recently, you've got things that will make your cords go away for you. We tag our tech site "Smarter Homes, Fewer Wires," and that's really been our focus for the last 6 years, is getting rid of the wires. And so when you've got things like the Duracell Migrid that can take 4 phones and make the 4 cords evaporate in favor of just the one, that's a big breakthrough. And when you've got the devices that can allow you to tune your television into your cable channels and your DVD and all of that stuff without cords, and have a remote without a cord, there's a huge breakthrough there too.
Can you tell me some of the best colors and the trends? What would be the top 10 or top 5 for 2011?
The top trendy colors for 2011?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently the Pantone says that the top color for next year is called honeysuckle. But when you look at their color, it doesn't really look like honeysuckle to me. It's sort of a pink color. I always find trend reporting like that a little bit of a stretch. I'll tell you what I see though, what I've seen very strongly in the past year and where things seem to be going. They seem to be going for darker colors. When I started in 2001, everything was light and very sort of pastel. Now people are craving darker colors and also cool colors like dark blues, which again is not a color I would have chosen a few years ago for my own home. I wouldn't think it'd be comfortable, but I'm seeing a lot of it. And in fact, the cover of my new book has a blue room on it, a dark blue room, and I didn't choose that picture. The publisher chose it after asking around the offices which picture people responded to the most, and it's really been surprising that movement to darker colors and cooler colors, like blue.
And any particular design or trend or way of decorating particularly distinguishes Chicago?
Chicago, two things. When I think of Chicago, two things. One, people really love their homes. I think as opposed to New York City, people actually get to spend more time in them, and they have a little bit more room, and so they love them. They love them more, if you will. People in New York have empty refrigerators. I don't think of that about people in Chicago. I feel like in Chicago, when you go out with someone, you're often invited over to their home for dinner. The second thing that's distinctive about Chicago is you have a really old and sort of venerable design history, and that informs everything in the city, I find. Again, as opposed to New York, where we tear down things to build things up, I feel like Chicago's really maintained a lot of buildings that, so when you walk around, you're sort of witnessing a living history. And I find that even the young people who are readers of our site, of which there are many, Chicago was the third city we opened in after New York and LA, they bring a real enthusiasm to design. And that's not just for current trends, but that's for knowing like mid-century designers and the names of people from designs past. So I got to go right now.
Thank you, Maxwell.
But I hope that's good.
And I'll refer people to Apartment Therapy and your book, Apartment Therapy's Big Book of Small, Cool Spaces. Thanks a lot, Maxwell.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.